Thank you, Cathaoirleach. Thank you very much, colleagues, for all your interventions on the OB. I'll begin and just go through them from the top down. We had Senator Mary Siri Carney moved the amendment to the order of business in relation to the spiking bill, and I want to indicate, Cathaoirleach, that I'm accepting that amendment. And in moving it, you made a very compelling case around the whole issue of spiking, the risk of sexual exploitation, the bizarre idea among some people that it could be fun, the need for an information campaign. I completely agree with you, but that is a very, very serious matter. And people shouldn't leave a premises with somebody they don't know. You're absolutely correct in all the points you make. I think you make this case very strongly. As a father of 3 children myself, I could totally get this. And I mean, it's one of our great fears. And I know you have a daughter yourself, it's at a different age category, but it's a fear of any parent that their child could be the victim. And it's a very idiotic parent that thinks that their child is some way immune from normal social practices and that they're some way wiser than everyone else and that they'll spot these things. I think you're absolutely right. I support it entirely. You did mention, and as did Senator Dolan in seconding it, the role of young Fine Gael in this, and I think they do deserve great credit for pioneering this. And I think our leader of the Seanad, or rather Deputy Leader currently, Senator Regina Doherty, has displayed a great personal interest in this and has ran with it very strongly, and she merits recognition in this regard as well. So thank you for that, Senator Siri Carney. You'll certainly have my very vocal support when it comes to the floor. And now to move, Senator Neil Blaney supported the spiking legislation and referred to it as terrifying, and I agree with you. And I think it's good to see that it's supported across the House by people, because it's in the best interest of society that we deal with this immediately, both in terms of an information campaign, in terms of a penal system, and in terms just of education of people in relation to this. You raise, Senator Blaney, the entire issue of policing in Donegal, and what you raise is extraordinarily serious, in that it can look on a desktop analysis the right way to go, but we need the input of people like you who realise what it's like on the ground and what the implications. If I heard you correctly, I think you said 2/3 of Donegal could go without a proper policing service. That's totally unacceptable and couldn't be the case. It did occur to me that this might be a subject for just the exact specifics of it for a commencement matter, but that's totally for your very experienced self to evaluate. I support you entirely. I will convey this to the Leader of the House as well, that there is an interest in a debate. I think a regular debate on policing and justice is important, and it should be a feature of the programme of the House, and I'll certainly make the Leader aware. And I thank you for raising this very important matter, because we do need a proper policing service, and the fact that people live in a dispersed population situation is not a rationale or far from a justification to deny them proper policing. So thank you for that. Senator Ronan Mullen raised the question that's come into extraordinary focus with the illegal wrong war, with the illegal invasion of Ukraine, the barbaric invasion of Ukraine and the horrors that go with that. And our hearts and our minds and our prayers are with the Ukrainian people. And in that context, Senator Ronan Mullen raised the question of neutrality. And I do get what he's saying, and those of my party colleagues here will be aware that I've spoken about this at our PP, and I get the idea that we can be a moral force as a neutral state, that we can use that neutrality for peace, etc. I think Senator Mullen may be slightly cynical, overly cynical about the forum that's been established. I was at a briefing on it at the Foreign Affairs Committee, and I do think, from what I could observe from the briefing and the detail of who will be addressing it, the format, the whole thing, and the fact that people like any of us here can be present, I think there is a genuine effort there to tease out the issues, and I think we could dismiss it too lightly. Having said that, I understand the points that Senator Mullen makes, and it is the case that polling data still supports neutrality in the country, and he does cite the illegal war. To move to Senator Gavin, cites the need to go on increasing the pensions. Now, I should say, and Senator Gavin will, of course, being generous man that he is, will acknowledge that my colleague Minister Heather Humphreys and her predecessor, Minister Regina Doherty, then Minister Regina Doherty, have consistently increased pensions, and that has to continue. I suppose, and I'm not saying this in any partisan sense, the current administration and administrations before created the conditions with the corporation tax with others to bring in international investment and created the stable economic conditions to make it an attractive option. And we had a good education system. There were so many things right that we got the FDI, or the foreign direct investment, and thank God with that, a bountiful supply of money. I think there might be a debate in the media, and it's missing the point, Senator Gavin, and it's not your fault, but there is a debate in the media at the moment suggesting that it's an either or, that we either reduce taxation or we deal with social welfare and the services generally. Actually, thankfully, the situation is such that we're in the happy position that we will be fit to do both. We will be able to increase the pensions, and you're right, they should be increased, and I congratulate you on raising it. And we will be able to improve services, and we'll come to that later with other contributions, and we will be able to deal with the tax issue. That's the happy position we're in, and you're right that pensions must be a part of that. You are also correct about the minimum wage, and I know there's a recommendation today on that. And we have progressed there, and I believe that we should go on progressing on the minimum wage. And it ties into the point around horticulture, etc. The minimum wage has to increase, and I hope that that will be a feature of the budget. So I accept the point you raised, Senator Gavin. Now, Senator Marie Sherlock, again cites the minimum wage issue, and we agree with her on that. I agree entirely with Senator Sherlock, and I feel very passionate about this myself. You will recall, Cathaoirleach, I raised this myself here from the floor of the House a few times. We do need much more rapid assessments for children with special needs. We do need a major investment here. There is a problem, all right, with having enough professionals, but we need to attract the professionals. And I agree with her, it's not ideal to privatise these things. I personally don't think that should be a policy position. It should be a desperate response in a desperate situation. But the ideal is to get the professional staff there, the psychologists and the backup people, and we should speed up the services. And the idea of grant aiding the schools may well be a method that we'll have to look at. It's too cumbersome, it's too detail, and it's too most teachers, I know there has to be scientific basis and a professional basis, but any practicing teacher, and you were a teacher yourself, Cathaoirleach, for many years, and a good one, and you've been in the career guidance field, and you would know, and that most teachers are fit to diagnose these conditions themselves, but it's to get the official sanction. I think the system is far too cumbersome, and it needs investment and it needs movement, and I agree with Senator Sherlock about that. Senator Mary Fitzpatrick rightly welcomes Jim Gavin to the chair of the Centre City Task Force, and we do, and he will bring the qualities of leadership to it. We hope that he did bring to the Dublin football team, and to Dublin football. He really done enormous things there, and there's no reason to doubt that he won't bring that special quality of quiet leadership, a very unique personal style, of very quiet, low-key leadership, but it's needed. I'm a little bit proud that my former colleague, and I see him featuring in the newspaper today with a rock star from the south. Enda Kenny was involved in setting up this task force at the outset with Pascal O'Donoghue out there during the last administration. I'm pleased about that, but the real issue, and I know that Senator Fitzpatrick is a huge supporter of it and wants investment in it, and I support her in that, and we welcome Senator Gavin, or rather Jim Gavin, and we wish him well, and I would support Senator Fitzpatrick in any efforts to support, to give cash, to give help, to give direct involvement to the inner city. She's not wrong about any of that, and we need to prioritise. And I do know that Senator Fitzpatrick is a fearless champion of the inner city too. So Senator Aisling Dolan again seconding the spiking bill, which we're accepting, and doing that very eloquently also. She's right about the Gaelic in the Joy programme. It's heartwarming and heartrending. It's wonderful to watch and to see and to observe. It's a great initiative, and it's a great joint initiative with the GA Stars involved and the RTE, and I support it. And she does make the broader point, and it poses the broader point about the need for rehabilitation, for a rehabilitative prison system. And that's a very necessary thing. We have to, and we're in a happy position in this country now to look to do more there. We definitely need a prison system that's rehabilitative, that's bringing new empowerment to people and giving them a new focus on their life and a new confidence and a new purpose and a vision for themselves. And prison should be as much about that as anything else. There has to be the penal dimension, sadly, but there should be much more focus on rehabilitation. And this is an example of how well it works. I'm certainly delighted. I'd be in great domestic trouble if I didn't support her in our good wishes to Roscommon on Sunday. So I have more than a passing interest there, and I'm married to a member of an extraordinarily strong GAA family in Roscommon. And they're fanatical. I think their first love is sport, and they just lived for sport and they lived for the GAA. And so I couldn't go home if I hadn't seconded that, in case some of them are watching. But they're also very hard-working people, so I don't think they're watching. But who knows? But in case one of them did spot it, I better congratulate Roscommon. So if I can move from that happy note to Senator Ger Craughwell, I couldn't agree with him more, and I know that Senator Blaney indicated support there as well, about Private Sean Rooney and the family. Yes, the family should go to the UN, and I do think, Cathaoirleach, that you indicated that you might take initiatives in that regard to Senator Craughwell. I totally support Senator Craughwell in this. It should be done. The family should be centre stage here, and it's enough to have the tragic loss of Private Rooney without just sending them something in the post, you know, and I fully agree with that, and that should be done. He's right in drawing attention to the 91 people who lost their lives in defence of the state or in defence of the value of peacekeeping internationally, which is incompatible with the neutrality that was discussed earlier. The Jadsville issue is very important. We have recently deceased in my own village, our town of Baileyborough, Sean Gregory, who was a veteran of Jadsville, and he's from a great army family. His son Tony went on to a distinguished member of the army after him. And Sean Gregory was one of those people who were forgotten and who were mistreated, rather who were demonised after Jadsville, when in fact they were brave and good soldiers. And I think Senator Craughwell is correct, and we should be honouring in every conceivable way the people involved in Jadsville and their families.